I'm Kristin Ramey, and I own Long Shadow Farm. We have 6 acres here in Berthoud. We've been here for 15 years. We raise primarily lamb and poultry, as well as beef and pork. We had a friend visiting from out of town, September 10th, 2018, sitting in the basement eating hamburgers when we heard a big boom and saw a big orange flash out the front window. My husband, who had cooked those hamburgers on the grill, and his friend immediately said, "It's the grill." So the grill had exploded and it started a fire. So the propane tanks blew their relief valves and were shooting effectively flaming fuel straight into our house. In the moment, grabbed my kid, grabbed my cell phone, ran out to the backyard to call 911 to get the fire crew here. Honestly thinking that in a couple of minutes they'd come with hoses and they would just put it out and everything would go back to normal. It took them 7.5 minutes to get here. And the longer I sat outside watching flames shooting off the top of the roof of my house, I knew this was it. We didn't have a house anymore. Something like 7 p.m. is when I called 911 to have the fire crew come out. And we didn't go to bed that night until 1 a.m. I believe it was something like 11:30 at night when the fire crew finally came out of the house with our pet cats that were locked inside to bring them out to us so we could bury them. And that's when we knew nothing was going to be the same. None of our agricultural structures were damaged in the fire. So our barn was fine, all of our poultry coops were fine, our fencing was intact enough for the animals to stay safe. What happened next was kind of the community pulling together for us. The next morning, an electrician came out to the property and said, "I want to help." We had electricity down in our barn that was crucial for our operation. And this electrician came out asking no payment for his work, just wanted to help. And he disconnected everything from the house so that he could reconnect power just down to the barn. The second step is that we called a friend of ours who's done plumbing work on the farm to do the same thing. He came out and disconnected the water line to the house and made sure that we had full connection down to the barn so that our automatic water for our sheep was still working. We had access to our hydrants out here in the pasture so that we could continue watering all of our poultry. That was pretty critical in those first couple days to make sure that our infrastructure was still working. For a year, we kind of had to pause and not fully function on the farm because we just weren't sure. Everything was up in the air. We just had to shift a little into what can we manage now that our life is very different? What can we manage for this little while? And it gave us a moment to reflect on what was really important to us on the farm when we did have a home to live in again back on the property. What activities were we going to bring back that we put on pause, and what activities were going to stay gone because they weren't serving us now that we had this break to think about really what were we doing with this property, what were we doing with our farm. It's easy for me to talk about it multiple years later now that things are back to being functional, and I'll tell you that we're almost back to where we were before the fire. But in the moment, we had days where the opportunity was there for us to just abandon the property. And we had those moments where it was just like, forget it. This is all too hard. I can't get through this trauma. Let's just be done with all of it. Let's go see what it's like to be a suburban family again. I'm glad we didn't make that decision. We kind of put everything on sort of a slow self-managed mode while we could focus on building our home, keeping our family together, keeping our family sane while things were really hard. And years later, I've built the farm back up to what it used to be.